First off, thank you very much for everyone's patience waiting for that. I appreciate maybe 10 minutes later than we intended, but live issues, tech issues, all of that lot. But here we are anyway. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. My name's Alex. I'm from CAD Software Direct. We are a leading supplier of CAD software in the UK for architects, interior designers, product designers, engineers, stuff like that. Today, we are presenting an introduction, maybe an overview to Enscape, more specifically Enscape on the Mac operating system. Today, we've got Kaj from Enscape, who's going to be delivering the main content for us today. So perhaps give us just a quick little wave, Kaj, just to say you're there. There he is. He can hear us. Perfect. Lovely. I'll hand you over to Kaj very shortly and let him introduce himself a little bit. But first, just a quick bit of housekeeping before we get into it. If you've got any questions throughout the presentation, you should be able to see a Q&A box on the left, whichever side that is on my camera, on the left-hand side of your screen. So pop any questions in there that you've got throughout, and we'll do our best to answer them. We'll take some time at the end just to dedicate some time for those questions. We are recording this webinar as well. So if you can't stay to the end, or maybe you want to share it with a colleague, something like that, you'll be able to do so. We'll send that out on emails once this is done. So that's pretty much it from me for now. Kaj, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself and then take it away with your expertise. You're already set as a presenter, so yeah, over to you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Alex. First of all, the technical check, we've probably already verified it, but just want to be extra sure. You should be able to see my screen. You should be able to hear me, and you should be able to see SketchUp and my movement in there. Is that correct, Alex?
I can see and hear all of those things, so yes, I think
wonderful.
We're good to go.
Great. If anyone in the audience does not hear, I mean, in that case, you probably don't hear me talk, but if you don't see my screen, please let me know. And yes, you are probably seeing a Teams presentation there right now, cards on the table. We have tested this yesterday as a dry run, so to say, and I was as smart as to test this on my Windows machine, but not on the Mac machine. And we've just realized that we didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't get the Mac machine to become a presenter here in the Soho app. So yeah, that's what we improvised right now. I'm calling in on my Windows machine from my Mac, presenting on my Mac, and that means you will see a lower than ideal frame rate. That's going to be the case for SketchUp as you see it here, and that's going to also be the case with Enscape as soon as I open it. I hope it's okay for you. I apologize for the waiting time myself, and yeah, I hope you'll still be able to understand or to feel the benefit that Enscape is able to provide. Of course, as soon as you run Enscape on your Mac or on your Windows machine, if that's what you're going for, it should run smoothly for you, and it is running smoothly for me on the first of two machines, and then we're streaming it via the second one. My name is Kaj Burival. I'm an application engineer at Enscape. I've been with the company for 6.5 years now. I'm very honored to be part of this presentation today, and I'm very, very pleased to be able to present to you after a long time where the support of Enscape on a Mac was amongst the, or maybe the most brought up feature request from our community to finally present to you Enscape on Mac. This is not what you're seeing right now. Right now you're seeing Enscape. Right now you're seeing SketchUp on a Mac, showing a sample project of ours. By the way, talking about the sample project, let's see what I have open here. Yeah, that's that. The sample project, if you want to have a look at it yourself, you can download it from our website. If you go all the way down to the bottommost part of the page, you can see our free sample project right here. Free sample projects. We have some sample projects for each design application that we support. And at the very bottom, we also have this new sample project for SketchUp, for Enscape, for SketchUp on a Mac. So if you want to have a look at this very sample project, you can check it out on our website. But that's not what we're here for today. We're looking for the great graphics. So Enscape in SketchUp on a Mac. This is the Enscape toolbar, which you should see right away after installing the Enscape installer, the DMG file, on a Mac. There is a free trial, by the way. Let me just start it. There's a free trial for you, so you can download it today. We will check out the system requirements later on. It's probably also going to come up during the Q&A, but you do need a M1 chip. So Intel-only chips are not supported. Yeah, that's the most important part. And what you get, you see it on the right half of my screen here. That is Enscape for SketchUp on the Mac. And if you are familiar with Enscape already, you will get pretty much the same experience, or you'll get pretty much what you have been waiting for. If you're not familiar with Enscape on Windows yet, we're going to have a tour through most of the user interface in Enscape and in SketchUp over the next, I think, roughly 30 minutes. We'll check out the various functionalities that you can. Actually, the frame rate is not too bad. I can actually control this watching my Windows machine. So that's pretty good. Yeah, you can. We will check out the functionality and how to work with Enscape. But one of the most important parts and like the core message whenever talking about Enscape is most of what you will be doing and most of what you need to know, you already know, and what you will be doing, you know how to do already, because most of the scene that you're creating happens in SketchUp. And we want to provide you with an additional window, with a ability to, see your model right away as it's going to look like in a realistic environment without, well, too many. Ideally without any obstacles on the way. And that means whatever we are doing in SketchUp, if I start, there we are. If I start to draw something here and maybe pull out something like a box, and then I can go in and maybe open my material window and, color it, you see that whatever I do is going to happen as well, both in SketchUp and an Enscape. And that's like the most important thing. We're going to check out a lot of really cool features today, how you can, share your experience with others and all that. But this is the most important part. You can continue working like you're used to. And Enscape just interprets and follows what you're doing and interprets it correctly and displays it in a realistic fashion. The same thing, we're not just talking about modeling stuff and maybe moving stuff back and forth or something like that. This really goes quite deep. We can go into the shadows window, for example. There we are, and we can change, the daytime, and it's gonna happen on the SketchUp side and on the Enscape side as well. We can change the date, and the sun will stay in the same daytime, but it's gonna change throughout the time of year. Right away, as you see. Let's close this window again. And that's also true, for example, if I go in and add a section plane, for example, really quickly here, it's going to be cut off as well. So, you get a very, very powerful tool and ability to present live in your design, and also to perform changes live in your design, and reliably have those being displayed correctly in Enscape in your visualization. Now I'm trying to use Control-Z to get back with my wireless keyboard. I'm probably just gonna. You might realize that I'm still not very not really a veteran on Mac yet. So there's still some surprises here. So bear with me. But if you are, this will be an all the more pleasurable experience for you. So yeah, if you are completely new to Enscape, if you're completely new to a 3D to navigating using the Enscape control scheme in 3D, and we're gonna go first of all over the toolbar here. On the left, we probably already saw the start button, which is the topmost button in this toolbar that I clicked. That's what started Enscape. Below that, we have the live update, which we saw as well. Whenever I change something, it's going to update in Enscape. And below that, we have the synchronize views function. So if you're new to a 3D navigation like that, or if you don't know where to start, you can look up the controls by clicking on the question mark here in the top right corner in the Enscape window, and you will see a list of tips how to navigate. So, we can use WASD to move forwards, backwards, sideways, Q and E to move up and down. We can press the space bar to switch from fly mode to walk mode, and suddenly we can no longer move through any obstacles. So that's pretty cool, and I definitely recommend to, on the long run, get used to this navigation feature or navigation scheme, because I think that's the most useful one. But if you just want to, hit the ground running with Enscape and just visualize in a matter of seconds, this is a really useful button for you, because it will just synchronize the okay, I realize I need to be in fly mode for that, so I'm just going to press the space bar to return to fly mode, and back here, and this is going to synchronize the SketchUp camera to Enscape. So you can have a half screen like I have it now, and just continue moving in SketchUp like you're used to, and Enscape simply follows. So that's pretty cool already. I'm going to disable it because I'm more used to the navigation scheme in Enscape, inside of Enscape. Below that, we have a button that is called Active Document button. Simply, this is the one button, by the way, that is not existing on the Windows side, because SketchUp on the Mac allows you to have multiple documents open at the same time. And with this, you can select, or you can switch between those various documents. I currently only have one, so that's fine. But if you have multiple ones open at the same time, you can switch back and forth. Below that is a button called the Enscape Objects button. Now, this sounds ominous. Right now, it doesn't hold all of the Enscape objects that you may be familiar with if you have been using Enscape on the Windows platform before. There, it holds 5 light sources, sound sources, and it allows you to connect proxy objects. We're working on that. I told you that not everything is available on the Mac yet. It is a work in progress, but we already have 2 of those light sources available here for you. Both of them work the same. That's a rectangular light and a spotlight. We're gonna look at the spotlight to show you how to use it, because SketchUp doesn't have its own lighting system, so we had to add our own one. How does it work? I click the desired light source, and then I click 4 times. That's the first time to select a surface of which I'm gonna base the placement of the light source off, and a second time to actually place the light source. Third time to select a surface, to base the placement of the light target off, and the fourth time to actually place the light target. So essentially, you're just placing 2 objects, light source and light target. You can still edit it afterwards, and you're clicking twice for each of them. Now, I have placed the light in SketchUp. And by the way, that is also one of the most important learnings if you're new to Enscape. And that's also one of our key philosophies, so to say. You're not editing the scene in Enscape. You can do that in some areas, but we're not seeing visualization as something where you take your project out of its existing environment, so to say, bring it into a different platform and edit it there, make it pretty there. We want to stay connected with your working environment the entire time, which, as you can imagine, makes it easier to visualize a project throughout its entire life cycle, and whenever you need it, and spontaneously and quickly and flexibly. So yeah, we are placing the light source in SketchUp. That's always where you edit the visualization or your model in general. However, we don't see it in Enscape at the moment. And that is a common question. Why do I not see those light sources right away? Well, because it's day and sunlight is just way brighter than our light source by default. So if we switch to night, we see there is artificial lighting in the scene. If we switch to day, we don't see it anymore, at least not as clearly, but we can grab the luminous intensity slider here dial it up, and at some point, as you see, we're going to see that light source. It just needs to be bright enough. We can change the beam angle, and we could also add an IES profile, which, if you know what that is, it's very, very useful. It's essentially a great way to add, well, I want to say chaos or character maybe to a light. So it's a file that simulates the light bulb and light fixture behavior. And a great source to get those is ieslibrary.com, I believe. So a website where you can download those for free, but we're not going to go too much into this as of now. But one thing that is that I want to show is how to color the light, because that's one of those functions that falls into the category of it's so easy, a lot of people don't even try it. So how to apply a color to your light source? Well, you pick a material in SketchUp and you color the light source in SketchUp, so this very object here, and that's going to change the light color in Enscape. So you see, we are really keen on making this connection between the two systems and between the visualization and your project as smooth and as useful as possible. Speaking of, the button below that, we'll find the Enscape asset library. The asset library, well, that's just a big collection of 3D models that are being created by our 3D artists that you can use. Of course, all of those included in any Enscape subscription that you can use in your scene to make it look more lifelike. Now, and that is also a point with SketchUp. If you want to use your SketchUp scene for visualization, if you want to have really, detailed and realistic and convincing models, at some point you will run into SketchUp performing slower and slower because there is a certain limit of complexity, so to say, that you can apply to your scene. And Enscape is very much optimized for complex scenes, so we can absolutely display that detail in Enscape, but we can have a simplified version of the model inside of SketchUp. So we see that here. Again, as you see, we're placing the model in SketchUp. We can rotate, we can move, we can scale it in here. Let's do that because I want to show the nice detail of this back. But if you don't want to place it in your SketchUp scene, let's say if we perhaps are in full screen in Enscape. No, sorry, I almost wanted to show something that is yet to come in Enscape for SketchUp. So with Enscape for Windows, you can also place those assets inside of Enscape, scale, rotate, and manipulate them. That is one of the features that are yet to come on the Mac side. But once again, we're working on that. Enscape has always been a very rapid development. So yeah, stick with us. But already for now, you have 3,200 models to choose from to populate your scene and have the right amount of detail on the side where it belongs, and have some placeholders on the SketchUp side to work with your model. And I'm going to remove this light here because it was affecting the scene quite a lot. So yeah, that's something here. You see we have all the nice detail right there. Okay, let's go further in this toolbar. We have the Enscape material editor. So if you have been working with SketchUp, maybe with SketchUp only so far, you may notice that we have a ton of really awesome detail in our scene. Let's see, I'm gonna fly up here to the ceiling, for example, to highlight that. Do we have the detail in here? I think so. This indirect illumination from the grass, beautiful. Yeah, the grass is a nice example. We have a grass material on here that has actual grass details. We have this floor here, for example, that holds a lot of detail that is not easily achievable with SketchUp alone. Why? Because SketchUp has a quite, well, simplistic material system. It's essentially just the color and the opacity. So to allow our users to achieve the same visual quality, the same quality of results, we at some point came up with the Enscape material editor. And the same thing that I've mentioned before is true here as well. We have the same data on both sides. We have the same materials, or this material editor is accessing the same materials that we have in our SketchUp scene. And let me see, this is a rather new model for me. So let's open the material editor. Let's use the color picker to find out what the material is called that we have right now. Display P3, is that right? No, apparently not. Let's see, we should have something. We can of course use the search in this material editor, and yeah, it's not a floor material. So you know what, let me just create a new material and show you how well those materials are being managed in Enscape anyways, because you're creating the materials, you're naming them, you're changing them on the SketchUp side. Once again, do I have to go into this floor? I suppose I have. So let's double click, open this up, and let's see. There we go. All right, have it. Let's remove this, and it has to be one of the two green materials in our, three green materials, probably going to be this one. Let's change the material on the Enscape side to see if we're correct. And here too, Enscape is gonna communicate back and forth. So if we change it on the Enscape side, there it is. It's gonna change in SketchUp as well. So let's go over to our red material over here, and let me show you how well this all works. So the material editor, the Enscape material editor, holds way more functionality than the SketchUp material editor, but it's accessing the same materials. So essentially, we are adding important data on top of the existing material, allowing you to work with those materials wherever you want. So you can just continue working with your materials in SketchUp like you used to, or you create and apply the material in SketchUp, then open the Enscape material editor and do some magic. And that magic being various material types, like this grass type, for example. And of course, you know, we can change the color of that. We can make it self-illuminated to actually emit light. Let's see, we're probably gonna see that, well, during night the best. We can make it a water material and behave like that really well and all that. Let's change the daytime to put it into a better scene. And you see, you know, Enscape is really, really fast, so you can drop it, or you can experiment with it really rapidly. And one of the most important factors that Enscape adds, or the Enscape material editor adds to all of this, is the support for materials. If you're new to 3D visualization, there is, caps lock. There are plenty of websites on the web where you can download material packages, textures that hold, again, image files that you can use to add all of this beautiful detail to your scene that really makes, you know, that makes it realistic, that adds surface detail, that adds reflection detail. So is it more reflective here and less reflective there? And of course, color detail. So we have downloaded that as a zip file, and I'm just going to take the color roughness control. There it is. Let's just take it. Okay, let's throw this in my downloads folder, color roughness and displacement. And if that is a little bit confusing here right now, don't worry. This workflow, these three textures, work pretty much the same for all of these materials. So what I've shown you, some of our, you know, material types before, grass, water, and all that, those work for those particular materials. For everything else, like wood, plaster, metal and all that, it's usually just this workflow. You download these 3 textures, color, displacement, and roughness, and relink them in this material editor. Oh yeah, it's great. It's sorted alphabetically. That's always useful. So let's set up this material from scratch that we've just downloaded. You see we have this wood on here now, and just the color itself works quite a bit. It has taken the color as bump map right away and as roughness texture, but we have our own image files for that. So let me just go there, relink it. There we go. That's displacement. And now we'll see, you know, how great this performs right away. By the way, we have this is not a material webinar. We don't want to go into too much detail, but we have multiple types of these height maps. So I could go, you know, with this very subtle bump map, or if I really wanted to make it visible that there is some distortion there, I could also switch this to displacement. And that's great for, you know, cobblestones, rocks, for really deformed surfaces. But I hope it's clear right from the get-go how this can add the really important, valuable detail to your visualization. Even if you only see it very subtly, this lets, I always say this lets the user, the viewer, imagine what it's like to walk barefoot on that surface. Last one, let's relink the roughness texture to the roughness input right there. And our material is finished. So that's just a nice little overview on how you can quickly and easily create your own custom materials using the Enscape material editor. And if that's not clear, of course, there is no save file, no external file for Enscape. If I click save in SketchUp, close SketchUp, and reopen it the next day, this all is saved. This is all a part of your project already. Well, there are save files, so I could export those material files as their own individual file type to share it with my partners and all that. But that's a different topic. You don't need to do that. That's what I'm pointing out. All right, that is a little bit of the toolbar on the SketchUp side. Let's have a look at what you can do on the Enscape side as well. And maybe as a first step, let me dive in a little bit into the visual settings, because I don't like this environment, this black void we have there. So I'm going to click this up here, the visual settings, and change the sky. There should be a skybox displayed, but I think it's not linked on my machine. So I'm just going to use one of our horizons that we have. And, you know, that breaks up and makes the environment look way more natural right away, especially if we're honest, this yellowish grass in the background, that's very realistic at the moment, at least where I'm at in Germany right now. And yeah, we still have, you know, our sky, our dynamic clouds that we can change back and forth. If we wanted to change those, we could change the the cloud density, for example. We could also go there and make something really abstract. Like we could change this to be in white mode, which looks a little bit like paper. We can add some outlines to really make it look stylized. So it's really up to us. And we could dive into this even further. Like you can connect these visual settings presets with your individual scenes in SketchUp. And I'm almost running a little bit out of time here. Let's see. There's so much that I would like to show you. Let's return to our regular visualization style, though. Reduce the outlines, and yeah, we could add some field of view, some depth of field to it. We could render an image. And if you've ever rendered a digital image before, you know that it can take a very long time, depending on the rendering software or the system that you're using. I'm just adding a little bit of sunlight here to make the scene look a little more interesting. Let's see, maybe like this. So if I wanted to render an image, that's this button up here, screenshot, and by default, it's going to render it in full HD. How long is it going to take? Roughly 7 seconds. and we have a image that is finished already. We could do the same with a 360-degree panorama. We could just let it render. It's going to take a little bit longer than a image, because it has to create, a 360-degree sphere. But you can upload these panoramas in our web service right away. You can get a QR code immediately or a link to review those online. You can send it to your client for them to view it on their mobile phones, or you can even stitch them together to a panorama tour. Or you can decide to create a web standalone overall, which means we can export this whole scene into a browser-based standalone experience. I think that's because I'm not currently not logged into my account. So let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, maybe I've already started it before. So yeah, I'm gonna share the link later on. I hope, Alex, that you can share it in the chat if that is possible, so you can have a look at it yourself. And we're just covering the very basics here. We see it on the right side. There's a couple of buttons that we don't get to explore yet. Also, a couple of buttons that are grayed out for now, because once again, there's a couple of features that are still to come. Amongst them is the video editor, virtual reality support, and much, much more. So yeah, this is the first release of Enscape for Mac. A very brief tour through the feature set here. Oh yeah, and this is our web standalone now. So I'm gonna copy the link as soon as I get to it. It's still loading here. I'm just gonna let it load. Yeah, really brief fly through, so to say, through our features here. I hope it's been it's shown you a little bit of what Enscape can do. Once again, you can download it for your Mac and try it out right away with your own projects. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now. And yeah, we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, I can pop in as well. So yeah, thank you for that, Kai. That was really good. Excellent stuff. So I think we've learned quite a lot about what Enscape for Mac can do there. So yeah, really good to condense that into such a short space of time. As Kai said, yeah, let's take a look at some of the questions. We've already seen one, so this one will be for you then, Kai. This is from Chris. Yeah. Can you insert specific furniture and fixtures from outside Enscape library, and does it render to the same quality?
Great question. That is something that is already available for Enscape for Windows and should come to Enscape for Mac very soon. We have a custom asset system in Enscape for Windows where you can import models in OBJ, FBX, or GLTF format. And yes, those are being rendered in the same quality. Of course, these assets that we have that are being provided by our 3D artists, they are optimized for real time. So they don't have a overly huge amount of polygons, so you can place a big number of them in your scene. But if you're importing your own models, they will render just as well. But you have to keep in mind that some of those are sometimes made for offline rendering, which is that kind of rendering that does not care how long it takes for a single image. So of course, if you want to use multiple assets or multiple instances of the same asset, it's probably best to have a little bit of a look on the polygon count. But yes, that is something that is being supported by Enscape in general. Currently only on Windows. It's going to come for Mac as well, though.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Hopefully that answered the question. I think it did. So another one here. So you mentioned earlier that it was needing an M1 processor. Other than that, what hardware requirements would you recommend for Enscape for the best usage?
Let's actually have a look at that. Oh, I have my browser already open. So let's go to the Enscape website. That's enscape3d.com. And we can go to resources and knowledge base. And this will ask us what system we're on. So that's SketchUp for Mac. And here under Get Started, we can find the system requirements. There they are. And let's check it out here. So minimum requirements are a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, or iMac, all of those M1. It needs a 3.6 gigahertz quad-core or 2.6 gigahertz, 6-core Intel Core i7 at least, or the recommended requirements are here on the right side. So once again, Mac is a little bit of a new environment for me. So, those year numbers, I don't know them by heart yet, but you can see here what the recommended requirements are officially from Enscape. I hope that helps.
Perfect. Yep, I think so. And finally, what I've got here at the moment is, I think we briefly saw it just on your screen there, but where are the textures, or is there someone that you recommend to find textures?
Where to find? Once again, there's plenty of them on the net, on the web. The website that I like to recommend to begin with is ambientcg.com. That is the website that I've shown you earlier. Let's bring that up again. Simply because, one second. There we go. Simply because all of these textures on this website are Creative Commons 0. So you're allowed to use them for commercial purposes, but they are free. So you can, just download and test and explore and have fun with it. But there are plenty more, like polygon.com, for example. That's POLIIGON.com, 2 I's. Those, many of those websites are paid, which means they have some free textures, some paid for ones, but it's literally, like the last time I checked, it's a couple cents per material. So it's, not a fortune. And you get really high quality materials there. Of course, you could also go in and take some photographs and just use those as textures, and that will work as well. Especially with Enscape, you've seen it earlier, it will try to derive a bump map automatically and roughness map. The only downside is they're not tileable by default. So there goes some preparation time into making them repeat with as invisible as possible borders. And that's not going to happen with your photographs by default. But there are also softwares for that. So if you want to dive into that topic, you can certainly do so. But to start, I think ambientcg.com, or I think textures.com. Let's see, textures.com. Sorry for the car. Also a free library here, so there's plenty of content that you can get and try around with.
Okay. All right, I think that's all I can see at the moment for questions. You've probably maybe, 20 seconds or so to quickly type up some more if you've got any more just before we wrap up. Kai, is there anything that you want to cover just before we close up today?
Once again, there's a couple of stuff that I would like to cover, but simply not the time for that. Of course, we have plenty of training content on our website, enscape3d.com. Most of that, to be honest, for the Windows side, but then again, it's a very similar system. So you can definitely watch the tutorials for Windows and learn how to use Enscape for Mac just by doing so. Apart from that, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope everyone who's new to Enscape will have a great experience and lots of success using it. And yeah, enjoy. It's, simple, fast, and gives great quality.
Perfect. Yeah, well, thank you for joining us today. I guess we'll wrap up there. So thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate you being here. Don't forget to check out Enscape. You can look at Enscape on our site as well, CADsoftwaredirect.com. I believe when this webinar ends, you may actually get voted over to that page anyway. But yeah, if you're interested in exploring it further, maybe setting up a trial, something like that, just drop us an email. You can get us on contact@cadsoftwaredirect.com, or you can call us as well on 01206 804 984. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Thank you again, Kai. And we'll leave it there, and hopefully we'll see you next time.